Hi, everyone. This is Greg Moore with the Cyber Civil Rights Act Amendment channel. I want to thank everyone, viewers and subscribers, as well as those leaving nice comments in the comments section. I really appreciate your support, and I hope with your support, we can grow this channel, spread the word, offer a resolution on some of the issues that we're addressing, as well as get going an amendment to this Civil Rights Act with a cyber attack amendment or a cyber civil rights act amendment um, to address this issue. Um, but first, what I'd like to do also is talk with you about the goals of the channel. And with the goals of the channel, we have to address a lot of different points, specifically the education, the awareness, and the education on this issue with regards to electronic harassment. What I've done today is prepared a short PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to go over some of these points. And I think it's helpful that we start in this direction on making the awareness of this issue. Electronic harassment is sort of a taboo topic at the moment. However, it is spawning in the news. We will go over that in the presentation. But first, I'd like to definitely start out with addressing um, why do we need civil rights reform? Well, if we look at what's going on, we are now in a digital age. And in this digital age, we're discovering that a lot of different activities are going on. The activity that we're addressing, of course, is the attack on human citizens against their will using these digital age weapons, or what we are calling cyber weapons. Um, they are also called bioweapons, neural monitoring weapons, microwave frequencies. They have lot of different uh, names with these type of weapons that are being used on citizens at the moment. Um, but for our purposes, with regards to trying to draft legislation to get an amendment into the Civil Rights Act, we're going to call it cyber weapons. We may have to adjust that a bit because the definition of cyber weapons tends to fall under the computer hacking uh, arena, which in itself, of course, is a cyber weapon as well. But we're being more definitive in our definition because our issue is electronic harassment and torture using microwave weapons, airborne weapons, neurological weapons, drones, uh, etc. So we have to address that specifically. So again, we're calling it the Cyber Civil Rights Act Amendment channel. We're pushing for Cyber Civil Rights Act Amendment. Um, what may come out of it is a variation, but the definition of the types of weapons, the directed energy weapons, and things like that, we are being very specific into the inclusion. And we intend to produce an argument for an amendment as the numbers are growing with people reporting being attacked using these type of weapons. So I'm going to get right down to the PowerPoint here. And so, why we Civil Rights Act? Well, what's going on is that there again an increase in the use. People are reporting being attacked around the country as well as around the world. That they're being electronically attacked by some sort of weapon. And if you can recall in the news, there was a attack on the diplomats in Havana, Cuba, and which was the uh, Havana, Cuba, is what they're calling it, syndrome. But as you can see there, um, this is exactly the type of weaponry that are being used. So it's not anything delusional. These are real activities going on. It just so happens that now they're being used against high profile citizens. Um, and I also want to add that sadly, the community has embraced it. And I think it's a positive thing to do because it's bringing out the awareness of this. And that is what we need to do. So I am happy for all the support group monitors pushing the awareness with making sure that any kind of news regarding attacks on citizen using some type of neural microwave weapon goes posted, because this kind of information only supports the statement that people are being attacked, violating their civil rights. Um, what I also want to show you is that, yes, the support groups are increasing throughout the country. We have support groups in basically every state now. According to the numbers from the support group leaders, we are approximately 8 million Americans being attacked using some sort of airborne weapon and attacking their neurology. Um, Now, where are these uh, attacks coming from? They're airborne. People generally don't know who their attackers are. Some have assumptions, and we do have cases that are being solved from a gang stalking type of attack. But not everyone is able to resolve their attackers. They're remote, and they're using an airborne weapon to attack their neurology and their mind. So we are calling these unacknowledged government incorporated bioneural weapon and torture projects. And what that means is that there is on the record an acknowledgement that there are partnerships between the government, meaning the government entity of the military, all branches, with specific labs, corporations that are doing research in these areas of bioresearch and neural research, weaponry, but they're testing and building these weapons, modifying it, fine tuning it, if you will, and in some cases, um, unnecessary, um, using it against citizens. And I know the general public will have a real hard time understanding what these projects and programs really are. And but through the support groups, through books like Dr. Duncan's book, the Project Soul Catcher, we learned from the inside who, what, where, and why these projects are going on. Sadly, no justice has been forthcoming for the many victims of this type of attack, myself included. Now, the other thing I want to point out about these type of programs is that they tend to be geographically controlled. And what I mean by that is, if you live in New York or if you live in Arizona, your attackers are going to pretty much be in your state, and they are controlled to not go outside of that. Now, I'm trying to verify that theory, that it is statewide, meaning state controlled. The FBI has an office in every state, and every state knows who is being attacked, and they know your name, they know everything about you, they know you're in the program. They have what they call an unacknowledged monitoring on these programs. And what that means is that although these, when it comes to the projects that are involve more sophisticated labs, well funded labs, they have a protocol that they have to follow, and that is you can torture but not kill. And I don't have anything to say about that other than it sounds insane, because I don't understand the difference. Um, but that is the reality of the program. They do not have the right to kill you, but they do have, in some sense, the authority to um, torture you. So this is a critical, or I want to say, this is a very important fact that people need to know about these programs. Um, and I'm also open in the comments for anyone that can say differently, because I have my reservations about the state line crossing. But what gave me uh, an intuition about it was the FBI field office reached out to me, uh, telling me that I was a target of domestic terrorism. And at that time, I agreed with him because of what I was going through. But what surprised me was that it was a field office, and I have other information that I'll share with you in the future regarding my personal experience going through this and how I'm legally handling it. Um, but what I was able to find through my research, that the FBI field offices in each state know who each person is being attacked and which lab or entity attacking the individual. I think they do this to control it, really. It because if you have someone in Arizona attacking someone in, Florida, it becomes more of a nightmare for them to manage. So if they section it out like a pie, it makes sense. And I believe, now I've crossed state lines while I've been under this program, and I could tell you that when I did cross state line, I wasn't attacked. I could definitely feel the presence, um, because of my neurology has been hacked. I could still feel the presence, but I was not attacked at all. So I think there is a guideline that they do follow, um, depending on how sophisticated the program is that you're involved with. So I wanted to point out, to you, who's aware, who's not aware, and definitely, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Department of Justice, and the Department of Defense know who you are and who is attacking you. That is not a secret. So I definitely want you to, as the viewer, be aware of that, and take note of that as well. Okay, as we move forward into trying to resolve this issue and making sure that we get some sort of results moving forward. Um, Now, we mentioned the Havana syndrome. We referenced that a lot in the support groups. We try to use it as a gauge, as an example of what people are experiencing. So, when I go to the emergency room once or twice, um, I've referenced the Havana syndrome attack for my wound, something similar, and they were able to understand where I was coming from in some cases, and then in another emergency room experience, they did not. So even the Havana syndrome, as popular, or I should say, as widely as it was publicized in the mainstream news, it it didn't have a far reach that at least we, or I myself, thought would have. I guess I went into the emergency room expecting um, these uh, triage doctors to immediately know, and not everyone does. So I just want to point that out to you. Um, Now, the other thing I want to point out is that because of these attacks going on, it has created a group of people who are suffering, every day from the attacks, um, don't have any kind of help in sight. The medical community, even if we're able to go into the emergency room, on in some cases it may offer relief, but it doesn't resolve the problem. Um, and so what it has become a community of what they call targeted individuals, TIs for short. And of course, you viewers and supporters out there, you know who we are. Uh, and I'm hoping, as I further grow this channel, to actually do away with that term targeted individuals. Um, we are individual, we are citizens that have had our civil rights violated. My name is Greg Moore, and I've had my civil rights violated. I don't call or consider myself a targeted individual. I consider that, a violation against my rights, just like any other assault on any citizen in this country for any type of crime. Um, so I'm a little insulted that, there is a market name for people that are being attacked in this way. And not only has this name sprouted and grown, but it's also taken on a name and an image of people with mental health issues, which is really disturbing to me because these crimes are just heinous. I mean, you're attacking someone using an airborne weapon that can injure them for life, even kill them, but they use it for sport and torture. So I have an issue with being called someone or a label using these type of weapons, and I think you should too out there. So let's support me in that endeavor also in trying to remove that. I know Wikipedia is listing targeted individuals as people who are encountering some sort of mental health issue, and I read that and was a little disappointed, and I thought it was a bit unprofessional as well. So believe me, I'm going to do my best to address that on the outside. There are many areas we have to attack with regards to this electronic harassment or torture, as we call it. So moving forward, um, some of these individuals have been electronically attacked for years. The longest that I've heard is a nice woman. Won't share her name, but she's been attacked for almost 28 years. And then there are a few others. I myself is going on 11 years. So I know these are definitely long-term torture projects. When you learn from Dr. Robert Duncan, these projects have a torture uh, gauge or torture term for kill you as long as it takes to kill you. Um, and I just find that disgusting. And I'm sure you do as well. But please, you, the viewer out there, do your homework. Don't only take my word for this. Do your homework as well, because that's important. The more you educate yourself, the people around you, the better off we all will be in the future. Remember, this is a cyber warfare that we are going through right now, and it is heating up, and it's fast, and it's pretty deadly. So I'm hoping that this channel can bring awareness to a lot of different areas in our society that are just sprouting out of everywhere. And you know, we as a people, we have to take charge on the things that we want our world to look like. And violence is definitely not one. We are a loving species, and we should show ourselves that by not allowing this to go on in our world, in our society. So, like again, um, these TIs are sprouting up in every state. The numbers are increasing. The intensity of the types of attacks are increasing. And you know, the only option we have right now is to make law enforcement and the medical community aware of this, give them the tools that they need to bring the awareness, and with the education of the technology, probable solutions that can help with regards to assaults, anything that we can do individually, collectively, and as a group to help your local law enforcement. Teach them, put flyers in there. If you are offering a conference call or anything like that, I suggest maybe invite your local law enforcement officer to the call, or post a flyer. Ask if you can post a flyer in the precinct and say we host a support group every day or whatever your schedule is, and ask them if they would be willing to join because we have an issue going on. These are the kind of activities that individually we are all going to have to do, I myself included. And this is why I started this channel, because I just got fed up with what's happening. And sadly, and I don't mean to make comparisons on other bad activity going on in our country, but what I am seeing is this type of assault activity being pushed under the carpet for a while and taking on a life of a mental health issue, as and not an issue of health and crime. These are basically assaults. Um, and until something is done about it, um, we're going to continue on this path of fighting. So we have to strategize and use any type of tool, support that we can possibly get our hands on and access to. Um, so that I definitely want to stress. And I know you will agree with me on this. But again, um, we are going to move forward with an amendment to the Civil Rights Act to strengthen the law and to make sure, as we fight to eradicate this kind of activity and a kind of assaults, um, we hope to have the law in place that will fight it. And if federal funding will be needed to educate and combat it, we will be on the line making sure that the funding gets out to all the communities throughout the country and hotspots. Um, for example, our research has determined that Florida, California, New York, and there are a few other states are where the numbers are increasing and where they're quite high, actually, regarding these type of assaults on people. So we have a long road. Yes, we do, but we're off to a start, and we hope to be effective. And that is my personal goal. And you have my commitment on that, because that is what I want. That is what I feel my goal is. And I'm going to do it as best I can. And I promise you that I can't say how it's going to come out, but what I want is a law that says anyone being attacked by this type of weaponry or assaults, the perpetrators will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and they will no longer be able to hide. End of story. So let's continue on with my little short presentation here. So, what are these kind of weapons? Now, this is another thing that we also have to educate people on, because, like the book in the back behind me, Dr. Robert Duncan's book, Project Soul Catcher, he details um, the uh, endless amount of ways of and I apologize for saying endless. It is not endless. He documents methods of how they do this, uh, the type of science and the weapons that go into this. So I urge everyone out there, new viewers, excuse me, as well as people looking for answers, please go out and get this book, Project Soul Catcher by Dr. Robert Duncan. I consider it, uh, when it comes to understanding these type of cyber weapons, um, this is the only book. I mean, there are a few others out there in the market, but he's pretty much the big whistleblower on this completely. So get the book, get educated, share it, because this is important now, and it'll definitely be important going into the future. So these type of weapons, yes, I'm calling them cyber neural, and some of them are also bioweapons as well. So um, that's a big landscape to cover when it comes to people being attacked against their civil rights. Um, these type of weapons are airborne. You generally will have difficulty trying to prove who the perpetrators are because they're doing this using airborne equipment. They can deliver an attack on you through an airborne weapon. And this is dangerous, folks. So we have to get into law. I mean, there is uh, uh, nothing on the books right now that are protecting us against this specifically. But we definitely have to hurry, and I mean hurry, and get this kind of protection into law specifically so that we can get the law enforcement community, the medical community educated quickly. They'll know and be aware of these types of weapons. They'll know what kind of injuries they produce, the symptoms, and we can possibly have an emergency first response for help. And I think that is so important with this, as we try and combat this. Get the help we need from the medical community, and with their expertise, and of course, they will also it would also take a life on its own in their field because they will have the resources to look into the type of injuries these things produce and how to help. They will have the avenues, the departments, as well as the physicians, as well as research to help people in this regard. So, what I want to point out in my presentation is a particular type of weapon that is used predominantly in a mine intrusion, and this is called synthetic telepathy. Now, what is synthetic telepathy? Now, synthetic telepathy, excuse me, is one of many, and I mean one of many, according to Dr. Robert Duncan. Um, this is one of many. Now, it was my understanding that this was probably the standard, and anything that has to do with any kind of additional experiences that anyone is having from a mine intrusion is interfaced with this type of network architecture. But according to Dr. Duncan, in my discussion with him, he said there are many, and unfortunately, I was not happy to hear that because it just stifled my awareness. I thought this was it and this is all we have to deal with, but according to him, there's more. So, what we're going to do in the future is also try to highlight as many of the techniques that they're using out there to help people. It's a big task, but we'll get to it. But this right now, I will say, is pretty much the standard right now on how they are intruding on people's minds with this technology. Um, Now, once again, it is one of many. It is a network of multiple interfaces for mind intrusion on the body, and it produces mental torture. Now, the mental torture that people are experiencing with this, can be in a range from what they call a voice to skull, and so many other neural point attacks on the body, mostly in the genitalia that people are reporting, as well as other areas in the mind. There is no particular standard reaction to that. You know, folks, everyone has a different way of handling pain. Uh, so I can't tell you that, you know, how one person reacts to a particular attack against another. What we try to do is just document it and hopefully offer comfort to the individual. Um, so that is one part about synthetic telepathy. Now, what this type of network weapon, how it's compiled, it's with interfaces. And as you could see, you know, from the diagram, you have artificial intelligence, you have a strategic natural language processing, keyword analysis, you have a database, you have reporting, you have data mining, you have an emotive response, mental impressions. Now, these are all interfaces that are designed for certain aspects of behavior that they collect and actually they push on. As you can see outlined in red, I have exactly, for example, the error control. It is sort of like a server. Now, this particular unit is responsible for the brainwave lock and loss. And what does that mean, a brainwave lock and loss? This is a critical area on how the mind intrusion begins. They get a hold of your brainwaves through these airborne weapons, and they're able to lock in on your frequency, your brainwave pattern, and they can lock it. Yes, folks, they can target you that way. They can just scan the air and find your brain pattern, lock into it, and it is stored in what we call an error loss machine. Now, what does that mean, an error loss? Meaning that if they are attacking you and for some reason the brainwave key to your pattern gets lost, it's no longer in the machine. This machine has a redundancy recovery factor built into it where it doesn't lose you. So this is one of the key reasons why they're able to attack people for such long periods of time, and that is because they have locked onto their mind pattern and their body. And once that pretty much is established, you can pretty much assure that it's going to be a long-term program of torture for the individual, which is what is showing up, and not only myself but others. And so this, folks, is what a synthetic telepathy map is. If any of you out there have ever seen this, or if you have any comments, if you want to share any information, please write it in the comments. Once again, I will definitely respond. If you find that my information is incorrect, please also write it in the comments as well. I tried to research this as best I could. I do have an IT background, so I was able to understand this architecture pretty simply. And I want to say that I was pretty not. I don't want to say I was impressed. I was saddened by how simple it is. Really, it's not difficult, folks, to do this to people when you see it like this. And I'm just hoping that something gets done quickly with our efforts and the efforts of others with regards to uh, uh, this issue going on right now. Um, so, like again, that is a synthetic telepathy, and that concludes the short presentation that I had. I intend to reach out to you folks individually. Um, with some interviews from actual people that are being attacked, telling their story. Um, and I hope to use these testimonials not only for the purpose of the channel of giving proof and people viewing and witnessing the testimonials. This is real, folks. And we here on the Cyber Civil Rights Act Amendment channel are going to prove it. And we intend to get this legislation going because it is needed. So again, that's our next presentation that we'll be doing on the channel, in addition to some other interviews with people in the know. So please stay close to the channel. And I definitely want to thank everyone out there for their support. And again, write us, subscribe, share, like. And thanks again for your help. Have a great day.